We welcome in NFL Network's data science expert, Cynthia Frelund. Appreciate seeing you. Hey, Cynthia, has been since week one in the NFL season since we've chatted, and a whole lot has gone down since. I'll first say good morning to you, and how are things with you on this fine Thursday?
Things are great. Thank you so much for having me. And so much as I can, first of all, how is it week 13 already? It's flown by, but yeah, so
I
a
know.
lot has happened for sure.
And how the worm has turned in a lot of ways for a lot of teams. But if you don't mind, can we start with tonight's Thursday night of the Cowboys and the Saints? And I was reading the matchup here. The Saints have won 10 of the last 13. The past two have been decided by 3 or fewer points. Saints have not lost to the Cowboys in the Superdome since 2009. In your role with the data science and analytics, how much does history like this go into the predictions that you so boldly make on a daily basis?
Um, Unless they have like similar personnel or the same personnel, which they don't, then it's kind of a
Mhm.
fun note, but it's not really helpful in terms of predicting the outcome of tonight's game because the personnel matters. And by the way, the Saints are missing just a bunch of them. I was just reading a laundry list: no Alvin Kamara, no Teron Armstead, Ryan Ramczyk, Tano Passanwat. Like all of these guys are just gone. So it's going to be a difficult matchup for the Saints, who are so shorthanded.
Absolutely. Well, which is fine because I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan and they've lost 3 of 4 coming into the game. But I guess without asking, you don't ask the hot dog maker what goes into the hot dogs. But how often do you get asked your formulas for your, again, bold predictions? You must get asked that quite often.
Yeah, and I'm happy to share. I mean, if someone wants to go do their own, then they should. Like it's fun. So, ultimately what goes into it are, our historical reference points, and that could be up to last week, right? So there are some elements of, what does this year's team look like and what does this year's opponent look like and how does this game stack up? Where are the pain points? Where are the things where someone has an advantage over another side of the ball, right? So essentially you're matching up like what you might see tonight and what you might see, based on a
Mhm.
historical reference framework of lots of times when you saw similar things, what were the outcomes in those games, and that helps inform what's most likely to happen in this game.
Some questions from the viewers, if you don't mind, Cynthia. Nelson Hackowich wants to know, is your game day morning segment with Rachel dressed as Steve Mariucci your single greatest TV moment ever? What can you tell us
I
about
mean,
that?
probably if we don't get an Emmy for that, I don't know if I'll ever get one.
I mean, I'm sure you get asked this a lot too. Are you having as much fun on game day morning as it appears that you have? It just seems to be just a rollicking riot every week.
It's truly a great show. Like I would actually argue that what you don't see is even funnier than what you do see. Like the stuff that, we are doing in the breaks is just sometimes we gotta pull it together. Like they're just like, okay, stop. Okay, can someone just stop laughing? Okay, stop laughing. So we do have a good time.
Good. Well, hey, and I got to ask you this too. I mean, just with the performances, analytics aside, let's just go with actual game data. Do you feel that Mac Jones, the 15th overall pick by the New England Patriots, was in fact the best pick of the round one of the 5 quarterbacks that went? Or do you have to factor in the talent around him, the schemes, and all the rest of that? I mean, you must have spent some time thinking about that question because it's coming up a lot.
Yeah, I do think Mac Jones will end up winning Offensive Rookie of the Year, primarily because he's the
Mm,
quarterback, and that seems to be the way that this all works out. Quarterbacks tend to win that distinguishing, that accolade at the end of the season. So, interestingly enough, I don't know. We'll have to see. I mean, we don't even know who Trey Lance is. We haven't seen much from him. Zach Wilson's been very injured. I have no idea what's going on down in Duval County, but I don't think this is what Trevor Lawrence will end up being in the league. And Justin Fields has had he's had a horrible O line to work with. So I would say we're just scratching the surface as to what's going on in this year's class of quarterbacks. And that's kind of how it should be. So we'll see what happens. You got to give them a couple of years. And you also have to remember that, I don't know if I would have wanted to stand behind that O line for Jacksonville. I mean, it's a scary situation for some of these guys. So got to give it a little bit of time for them to really get their whole kind of body of work out there so we can see who ends up being the guys who can really win you games or who's just kind of a flash in the pan.
Trevor Lawrence has been running for his life since the second he stepped on the field in that first preseason game. Even in training camp, he's been running for his life. Yeah, exactly. We have a viewer in Edmonton, John Kirby, who's begging me to ask you your thoughts on a Canadian survey. The results were released yesterday saying that Canadians don't want the NFL in Canada. And that's not totally true. They not opposed to the NFL in Canada, but they don't want to see the CFL die. Cynthia, do you have any history with Canadian football? Have you been to Canada? I mean, what's your thoughts on the NFL in Canada as a league and an entity? Because NFL Canada is a pretty big thing. It is a company, but your thoughts on all of that?
So I grew up in Michigan, so of course I've been to Canada. Like I grew up, we went to Canada a lot, and I have definitely I have attended. I've watched a lot of Canadian football on when I track for players, but also Quentin Porter, who I went to Boston College with. He had a couple. He spent some time up there as well. So I've been to one Rough Riders game. It was very fun. So it's more than maybe most people who talk about football in the U.S. So I'm a big fan of that. And I think it's good to have the CFL for a number of reasons, but not the least of which is because it's pretty pure. Like these guys want to be there because they're having fun and they're not breaking the bank there. And that's, everybody likes to see someone just enjoying themselves at a game. So I don't want it to die either. And I think the NFL, I think two things can coexist together, right? I think we've seen that in other areas. And the hard part about a non-NFL entity for football is we've seen two examples of large-scale failures, the XFL twice and the Alliance of American Football once. And that people are like down on if it can exist or if there's enough, potential for both. And I think that both can exist and I think they should. So, I hope that we get NFL in Canada and we get, and it maybe actually could even have the net effect of making the CFL more popular.
Wonderful answer. You're clearly not just a numbers geek. Very well spoken too, Cynthia. I appreciate that. And Quentin Porter, by the way, I called his games, Hamilton Tiger Cats, right? You glossed over that. You were at a Rough Rider game. I was the voice of the Rough. Yeah, I was the voice of the Rough Riders for 20 years. So I'm thinking maybe we were at the same game. But yeah, Quentin was not a bad Hamilton Tiger Cat, to be honest with you. My last question for you on this is your Sunday morning NFL game day situation. When do you get in there? When do you get all set up and everything? When do you fly into LA?
Well, I live in LA, so I drive in and I have to be in to be in at 5 a.m. So get nice 4 a.m. wake up call in by 5, and then we have just tons of fun until 10 a.m. right until game start.
All right, good stuff. Well, we've got somebody here to fix the fridge, so I got to let you roll, Cynthia. I appreciate the time. We'll be watching on Sunday. Thanks, as always, for coming on with us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Cynthia Frelund from NFL Network joining us on the RP Show. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching the RP Show on YouTube. And don't forget, we're live daily on YouTube from noon to 2 Eastern. If you like what you see, hit subscribe. And if you like the program, check around for other segments of the Rod Pedersen Show here on YouTube.